All right, everybody. Hey there, and welcome to our session today, Compassion Fatigue. It's our second coaching lab. So I would love to see your faces today and just check in and say hello. There's a beautiful face right there. Thank you. Thank you for showing up and showing me your face. I appreciate that greatly. All right, we're going to jump right in because our coaching labs are they're a little bit more elaborate because we're applying a tool that I've sent you. So I just want to do a check-in on the chat. Let's make sure that our chat is working. If you would, in the chat box, just let me know if you got the tool that was attached to the email. And if you did, just let me know by saying yes. So please feel free to share that now. All right. And as you are, okay, looks like we've got some yeses there. That's fantastic. I also have a poll for you to ask you if you had attended our Compassion Fatigue 2 session earlier in the month. And so it looks like we're a little on the heavy side of some of you. The answer is no. So not to worry about that. I'll give you a quick recap so that you can just jump right into what we're doing today. All right, and Leah, thanks for that feedback. You missed the last session, but you're glad to be here. That is awesome. All right, let's go ahead and get going. And I'm gonna leave that poll open for those who are jumping on. Looks like everybody's running a little bit late today. Well, we do have 30 minutes and I wanna make the best use of our time. So I'll do my intro. For those of you that I am meeting for the first time, my name is Angie Nuttall and I am an executive business coach. And let me get this going. So I'm an author and a speaker. I'm an executive business coach, so I work with corporate and entrepreneurial business people. I've been a proud partner of Penn State Health for, I think, almost, maybe going on 3 years now, and absolutely love working with you all. I'm also a corporate talent expert. Spent about 20 years in corporate America working with key talent, coaching leaders, working on professional development, and all of those wonderful things. And I'm also founder of the VIP Center for Business Women, and I'm in that space today here in Indianapolis. It's a co-working meeting and event space. We also do professional coaching for corporate and entrepreneurial women. And I am the CEO of Corporate Talent Institute. So I want to jump right into talking about, giving you a recap on what our session was this last month for compassion fatigue. We've been talking about compassion fatigue and how it causes you to have a lot of negative reactions from an emotional, mental, spiritual, and physical perspective. So when you are experiencing compassion fatigue, it really, you probably know you have an interest in this topic and you have probably felt the pressure of everything that's going on in the world. We've got the
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Steve Massini.
We
still see some numbers going up. We'll go ahead and get started as people are joining. And appreciate everybody who is participating as well as our panelists here today. We'll follow a very similar format. I will cover a couple of topics.
If you could you please mute your phone? Okay, that would be very helpful. There we go. All right.
I thought somebody else was conducting the meeting today.
I did too. I was like, okay, well, yeah. So if you would just mute, and we will have an opportunity a little bit later to chat, so you can unmute at that point. All right, so let's get into our topic. So this past month, as it relates to compassion fatigue, we were talking about values. And I do a lot of values-based coaching. It seems so unassuming, but it is one of the most powerful ways that you can unleash your strength and your power and your resilience and your discipline in your life, especially when you're going through tough times like we're all going through right now. Even as a healthcare professional, you already feel the stress and overwhelm of having to deal with patients and what they're going through. And then if you are someone who you're deeply empathetic and sympathetic, you have a care and compassion around people, that can compound very quickly, and it can get your 4 personal pillars out of whack. So last time when we talked, I shared with you 3 basic facts about values. First of all, they drive our decisions. Everything that we do, there's usually a value or 2 that's directly behind that decision. The second thing is that we have 2 types of values, and this is going to be key for us today. We're going to do a deeper dive on this and use the tool to examine that. But also, we can overuse some values, and there are certain ones that we might be underusing. And so we want to tap in to a certain kind of our values to get our energy and strength back. Okay, so for those of you who were on our session last time, this is a quick recap for you. And for those of you who are new coming onto the scene, I want us to look at this in these terms. We have 2 kinds of values. We have foundational values and we have inspirational values. And there is a difference between the 2. So I want you to be getting into this mindset right now and thinking about what are your foundational values and what are your inspirational values. So when we talk about foundational values, we think about these as a dominant driver in our decisions. Now, you may be going through your daily life and these foundational values, they're like causing your operating system to go. But if they are absent, it's very, very painful for you. So just give you an example of this. If you have a value of responsibility, you feel like you always have to pick up the slack. You always feel like, if, for example, let's say that you're having a get together and everybody's going home. You're the person in the kitchen doing the dishes, you're doing all the cleaning up, you're making sure that everything's in order. And it's because you feel a responsibility to do that. So if you don't have responsibility or you're not seeing that value in someone else, then it irks you. It's painful. It's like, I just can't stand that because that person is not being responsible, and it really gets to you and works with you. And so when we're going through times like we are now, and even in the health field, in those times of overwhelming stress, this can really be magnified for you. This can be really magnified and painful. All right, so when we think about inspirational values, what we're talking about here, these are the values that get you out of bed every day. They bring joy to you. They bring a smile to your face. You get a lot of energy from them. And these are the ones that when we're experiencing stress and compassion fatigue, we tend to underutilize these in these times of stress. So for example, I have a value of creativity. I'm a professional artist and I love messing with art. I love creating things. And I notice that when I do art, when I create art, I could just be doing it for hours and hours and hours, and I don't get tired. There's just an extra discretionary effort that's there and present. So I want you to take some time to think about this. We're going to do this in a very simple way. I'm going to show you the first step of this process. We're going to work through it. I'm going to invite Holly Mae Carver to be I'm going to put her on the coaching hot seat with me in just a little bit. And we're going to show how these values really show up for you and how they operate for you. So here's something that is important to do as we get ready to do a little work and a little exercise on our values. First of all, I want you to recognize that when you are honoring your values, it actually helps you to balance these 4 personal pillars that we have been talking about in our series on compassion fatigue. And for those of you that are brand new, you've never seen these before, those 4 personal pillars are your emotional pillars, your mental pillars, your physical pillars, and your spiritual pillars. So all 4 of these act like 4 tires on your car. And I have a picture of a gas station here because I used this last night as I was talking to a group of people and coaching clients. But when you're in the desert and you are driving up on a gas station and you know that you're about ready to run out of gas and you have a 500-mile road trip ahead of you with no other gas stations, what are you going to do? you're going to stop and you're going to get gas. So I want you just to imagine this. Let's say that you drive by this and you don't stop for gas knowing that your gas tank is on E. Well, that is exactly what happens when you are not honoring your values and you're not balancing yourself in these 4 key areas: your emotional, mental, physical, and spiritual. It's just like driving by that gas station, knowing that you're on fumes and thinking that you are still going to get 500 miles down the road. It's just not possible. So really, we have a work life, and many times we think we can just check all of that at the door when we go home, and when we go home we can check our personal life at the door. We don't. We are whole people, and the bottom line is that those values drive everything that we do. So we have to take a really good look at those. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to do an exercise. I'm going to put you out into breakout groups online, and I want you to pull out your worksheet if you have it. If you don't, that's absolutely fine. You can just write on something near you. And I want you to take just a second to write down. If you have time, you can write down your top 5 values, but I at least want you to just jot down what you think your top 2 or 3 values are. All right. Now, values can come in a lot of shapes and forms. Okay. So you can have harmony, you can have creativity, commitment, joy, family, security. There are all kinds of values. So I want you to capture that. And here's what we're going to do in our breakout talk. Just a moment. I'm going to put you with your group, and I want you to just share with your group maybe your first 2 values. It could just be 1. All right. I want us to be mindful, because I'm going to try to have about 3 of you in a group. But I want you to go around, share your values, and I want you to just compare and contrast them. So I'm going to give you about 7 minutes to have this discussion. So be mindful of your colleagues and make sure that you're giving everybody equal time. But talk about why that first value is number 1. You know, what is it that causes that to be number 1 and why it's important to you?
Why?
And so when we come back, I'm gonna ask for volunteers. So I've already asked Holly Mae Carver to be my coaching client. I'm gonna put her in the hot seat, and I'm gonna use the questions that I've already put on our worksheet for you, and I'm gonna walk her through her values, and we're gonna do some discovery about her values, okay? All right, so what I'm gonna do right now, I'm gonna go ahead and get you into your breakout rooms. All right, so 7 minutes, and you should be joining your groups here in just a moment. All right, so everybody should be back now. All right, so I do want to hear, if you would, just in the chat, post a couple of words about what you talked about. You know, was there, I mean, you could be, you know, you heard somebody talking about a certain value that you resonated with. Maybe it was you were just amazed at how differently you thought about things. So just go ahead and type in a quick line about how that exercise was for you. And let's see what we say here. Find common ground. Yeah, you know, that's what I love about talking about values. It is an opportunity to find out where you have commonalities. Have the same values. Values are fluid and they change with the situation. Interesting. Many common shared values: family, joy, teamwork. Have the same values. Family, yeah, usually family is a big one. It's normally like in the top 3 of people's list there. All right, so here's what we're going to do. Talking about value, it's one thing to talk about values and say, oh yeah, my values are creativity, family, and freedom. Those are my values. It's another thing to discover what's really driving all of your decisions. So Holly, thank you so much for agreeing to be my coaching client right now. And I see that your mute is off, so that's great. So Holly, here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do a little bit of mining for your values. So I want you to think about, first of all, what are a couple of your top values from your perspective?
Sure. Actually, at the end of our small group there, I realized, I think one of my very top values is order and
Order.
organization or structure. That's like
Yeah.
really what I'm seeing. Like, I value that.
Okay.
Another one is peace. I really value peace, where I know conflict and confrontation is necessary, but I'll work with people to get the peace in them, especially in relationships.
Okay.
And then another one that I find myself is independence. I value independence. And when my husband asks me too many questions, I'm like, can't you just figure it out? Are you not, like, you're not independent? Like,
Yeah.
that's just silly, but that's something I realized. And I love the fact that my kids are independent. So I
Okay.
value that.
All right. So I want you to pick one of those. It can be the order or the organization, the peace or the independence. Which one do you want to explore?
Let's explore the order organization one,
Okay.
because I think
All
that's
right.
a common one.
All right, very good. So everyone, I'm simply going to use the questions that I put on your worksheet, and we're going to walk through this discussion pretty quickly, just so that you see how it works. All right, so Holly, what is important to you about order and organization?
First of all, it's very important to me that things get put where they belong. I really appreciate when things are where they belong, so that when I need it, I can find it, or when somebody needs it, they can find it. I also like order in meetings, like knowing what we're going to talk about, what's happening, and that we're not just sitting and waiting for action or discussion. I really value, and with order comes cleanliness. I feel it's a lot easier and simpler to manage with being able to maintain or manage that. So.
Yeah. So when I hear you talking, there's another value that I think is an undercurrent for you, because you talked about, order, about being able to find things where you place them. And then there's the cleanliness thing, but there was the second thing there were, I can't remember exactly how you describe it, but basically what I heard was that you really value security. So like the meetings that you're in, you like to know what's going to happen. So when we think about that, you may have a value around order, and that's like a surface value, but really what you're looking for is security. Does that
Never thought of
resonate
that.
with
That's
you?
yeah, it definitely does. Security in knowing that what I know to be true is true, or what I
Yeah.
expect is going to happen.
Exactly.
So I could see security being in there.
Yeah. And do you see how that value in particular might be driving some of your behaviors?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's just let's keep talking about order and see what else we can cultivate from this. So what is it that prompts you to practice this order and organization?
Efficiency, or a drive for efficiency, a want for knowing that I'm not going to waste time by trying to figure things out, or trying to find things, or I'm not going to miss a point. Like,
Right.
when somebody gives me a process, I'm quick to organize it so that I know priorities, but also like timelines and how I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
So that so it can be most efficient.
Okay. So efficiency, that's just another offshoot. That's another value there that's popping up for you, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so what does efficiency give you?
In a way, it gives you control.
Yeah.
It
Control.
gives you control, because I can control the time. I can control, or I feel I can control. I guess it's a
Okay.
sense of control that's probably not even there.
Yeah.
Efficiency obviously gives it a more better flow. It can also provide like a more space to develop, or to grow, or to understand.
Yeah. 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 And that's good. So staying in line with order and organization, which was the surface value that you popped up with, what situations override you practicing order and organization?
When it's not my space or not my place. to put in order and organization, whether it be in positional or in space, whatever space I'm in, or time constraint. Like if I'm limited in time constraint, just need to get something done. I can't always do it in an orderly fashion, just has to get done.
Yeah. So it might be that when it comes to order of importance, you have a value around order and organization, but if there's a time crunch, you value the efficiency more.
Truth.
Yeah.
I didn't think of that. That's good.
Yep. Okay. And so we've really just led into this last question. You know, what values are you honoring over order and organization? What would you say?
Efficiency.
Yes.
Time.
Exactly.
Efficiency.
Yeah.
Would probably play the bigger role.
Right. So
Interesting.
just walking through this process, what have you realized about your values?
I don't really know them all. I have a lot to learn.
Well, yeah, I mean, it really is true that values, they are driving your decisions, but sometimes what we name as the value first, it's not necessarily the real value.
Yeah.
You've got a couple of foundational values that when they're not there, it's really painful, and that's the security, and then that's the efficiency. Okay. So just want to, was that helpful for everyone? You can post in chat if you have comments or thoughts about that. Holly, how was this process for you?
Very good. Very enlightening. And thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. So here's the deal, everyone. I want to encourage you to try to walk through this process. So in your worksheet, you do have, I want you to continue this. You'll notice on your worksheet that first of all, you have that one where you identified your top values, and then you have someone else, a colleague or a friend, or even your spouse or significant other, have them write down their values and just start having the discussion. So this helps you to get warmed up to what other values really are showing up in my life. And then after that, and then even walking through those questions that I just walked Holly through. The second piece of this is really digging into those values that showed up as prominent and rating yourself in terms of strength in these. And I gave you some instructions there. I want you to rate these on how fully you're honoring each of these values in your life, and use a scale of 1 to 10, where 1 is not honoring it, 10 is fully honoring. And then I want you to force rank those. And when I'm really driving you through a mental process here to get very clear and force rank them in terms of which ones give you the most energy. So your foundational values are always going to be there, but if you're needing energy and you're needing to overcome compassion fatigue and the stress and overwhelm, those inspirational values are the ones that you want to tap into right now. And so I'm going to challenge you to pick one that you really want to focus on more to bring energy into your life. So hopefully that makes sense for you. And it's 12:31. I want to be mindful of your time. I put this up every time, but every time I put this up, people sign up for it. I want to give you a free gift, and I do have an ebook. It's called Notice. It's the first 2 chapters of one of my books, Compose Your Soul, How to Turn Your Daily Chaos into Calm Control. So I also want you to note that when you download the book, you'll get an opportunity to be a part of my 52 Weeks to Calm community. And Holly, I believe you're a part of that community as well. So glad to have you. But no matter if you're male or female, you can join our Bright Bulb community also. So you can get this resource at angienuttall.com/ebook. Now, if you want to do some deeper dives on the value, this is something that we talk about in an upcoming class. It's called the Reset Mindset Masterclass. You can learn more about this at angienuttall.com/reset. So if you're interested in doing a deeper dive on these values. All right. So that is it for today. I hope this was helpful for you, and I look forward to our next session, our next one, compassion fatigue number 3. We're going to be talking about inner critics, and we all have them. We all have those little voices that like to talk to us and make us feel miserable, but the good news is that we have power over them, and I'm going to show you how you can get control over those things in our next session. All right, everybody. Hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and we'll see you soon.